शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वज्रनानन्दनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Namaskaram all of you and welcome to the 24th session of Narayaniyam. This is the 4th episode of the special mini-series of Upanyasam on the 24 incarnations of the Lord Supreme by design, space between Kapila Avatara and Naranarayana Avatara, that Narayana Bhattadri combined with Daksha Yajna in Dasakam 16. After this session, we will proceed to Dasakam 16 because this session will conclude the 24 avatars. In the prior 3 sessions, we saw sequentially some of the so-called Dasavataras, but also the other important incarnations rarely spoken about and thus continue to remain obscure in the psyche of 60 to 70% of the believers of Sanatana Dharma's scriptures. We then dealt with the primary or foremost of the incarnations, starting with Paramapurusha, the Hiranyagarbha, then that of Sanat Kumaras, Narada Mahamuni, Nara Narayana, albeit briefly, Varaha Avatara, Kapila Avatara, and dedicated the last 2 sessions for Dattatreya and his 24 gurus. If you look at the number of avatars we have so far seen, if we were to include Paramapurusha and Hiranyagarbha as well, we had done so far 8 of them, and then we have 16 more in this session to complete the 24. If you do not count Paramapurusha and Hiranyagarbha, we have seen 6 of the avatars, and we will have 16 more for this session. We will see Naranarayana Avatara in some detail as we move along to Dasakam 16 and other avatars such as Narasimha Avatara in Dasakam 25, Vamana Avatara in the 30th, Matsya in 32nd Dasakam, Sri Rama Dasakam 34 and 35, and Parashurama 36, before coming to Purna Avatara Parabrahman Sri Krishna, his form and birth as a Yadava, for which Bhattadri used Dasakams 37 through the 99 of the entire Narayaniyam. Bhattadri followed Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes all these incarnations beginning with the eternal Purusha, before and after the Naimittika Pralaya or deluge. Let us now see from the 7th incarnation to the 22nd, namely Kalki being the last one. With those 22, the total adds up to 24, as I previously mentioned, with Paramapurusha and Hiranyagarbha. Tata saptama akutyam ruche yagyobhyajayata Tata saptama kutyam ruchege yagyobhyajayata sayamadhyaihi suraganaihi apahat swayambhu apahat swayambhuvantaram ततः सप्तम आकूत्याम रुचेहे यज्ञोभ्य जायत स यामाद्यैः सुरगणैः अपात स्वयंभुव अंतरम. The seventh incarnation was Yajna, the son of Prajapati Ruchi and his wife Akuti. He controlled the period during the change of the Swayambhu Manu and was assisted by demigods such as his son Yama. The administrative posts occupied by the demigods for maintaining the regulations of the material world are offered to the highly elevated pious living beings. Of course, when there is a scarcity of such pious living beings, the Lord himself incarnates first as Brahma and then as Prajapati, then Indra, and takes up the charge, additional charges if you were to say that. So Paramapurusha coincidentally also acts as Brahma, Prajapati, Indra, etc., etc. One may wonder why this should be done. In the corporate world, if you were to use an analogous situation, such emergency dual or multiple roles of control and power are not uncommon. You and I know about it. When major corporations face unusual challenges, upheavals, significant challenges that require immediate changes, the top executive, the chairman, steps in to take added responsibility of that of a CEO and or president, depending upon the vacuum caused by the purging of that person from such a role. In my own personal life, running several corporate entities for over 40 years, I had been forced to manage multiple roles as chairman and CEO and president, together with the titles of chief operating officer, whatever you may call, in times of emergencies, at no notice at all until I found a replacement fit enough for the role. Such a mundane phenomenon originally came from our Puranic interpretations of Brahman taking ordinary incarnations such as the son of a Prajapati, or often taking additional roles of Brahma, Prajapati, Indra, etc., etc. A Puranic example is the above. During the period of Swayambhu Manu, the present period is of Vaivasvata Manu. There was no suitable living being who could occupy the post of Indra. That means the king of the Indra Loka or the heaven or the heavenly planet. Therefore, the Lord himself at the time assumes the role of Indra and becomes Indra for a short while. Assisted by his own sons like Yama and other demigods, Lord Yajna ruled the administration of the universal affairs. That is the purpose of highlighting multiple roles by the Supreme himself. One may wonder why he has to become Lord Yajna when he could have easily had one of his appointees do the role. When Supreme Brahman decided that this role had to be immediately occupied so as to smoothly transit to his creation, that is how the seventh avatara, the seventh incarnation of Lord Yajna happened. That's a long explanation. अष्टमे मेरुदेव्यां तु नाभेः अष्टमे मेरुदेव्यां तु नाभेः जातगुरुक्रमः दर्शयन् वर्त्मधीराणां सर्वाश्रम नमस्कृतं दर्शयन् वर्त्मधीराणां सर्वाश्रम नमस्कृतो Ashtame Meru Devyam tu Nabehe Jata Urukramaha. Darsen Vatma Dhiranam Sarvasrama Namaskritam. The eighth incarnation was King Rishabha, son of King Nabhi, and his wife Meru Devi. In this incarnation, Bhagavan showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses and who are honored by all orders of life. The society of human beings is naturally divided into 8 by orders and statuses of life. As you all know, the 4 divisions of occupation and the 4 divisions of cultural advancement make up these 8 divisions by orders. The intelligent class, the administrative class, the productive class, and the laborer class are the 4 divisions of occupation. When we make these kind of adjectives, it shouldn't mean that the administrative class has no intelligence, and then the productive class is mediocre in intelligence, or the laborer class are absolute duds. It does not mean that. The classes of occupation, the divisions of occupations require higher degrees of intelligence at different levels. That is why the classes have been placed as the intelligent, the administrative, the productive, and the labor class. And the student life, the householder's life, retired life, and renounced life are the 4 statuses of cultural advancement towards the path of spiritual realization. What are they for simplistic understanding? Brahmachari, Grihastha, and then finally the life of a sannyasi. Out of these, the renounced order of life or the order of sannyasa is considered the highest of all, and a sannyasi is constitutionally the spiritual head of all the orders and divisions, or I would say spiritual head for all the orders and divisions. Even in the sannyasa order, there are 4 stages of upliftment toward perfection. Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Parivrajaka and Paramahamsa. The Paramahamsa stage of life is the highest stage of perfection. This order of life is respected by all others. Before attaining this stage, these are the following steps. In the beginning, the sannyasi makes a cottage outside the village and the footstep comes from his home. But he has no connection because by Vanaprastha, he has already left home, and by sannyasa, completely cut off the connections. But continues to take prasadam from home. That is called Kutichaka. As a young man, I used to wonder why my paternal grandfather used to live completely solitarily in one of the floors of the home which was occupied by some of the relatives of my father. He used to get food. My mother used to cook food and give it to me, and I traveled from my home to deliver it to my grandfather at the appointed hour. He used to eat it, and I'll bring the remainder back home. That's the only communication I had. And then later on, I understood that he was somewhere between Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, but I did not realize that the name was Kutichaka until I came into contact with Paramacharya as a young student. Then when he is practiced, when the sannyasi goes from door to door, that is when he becomes Bahudaka. And then when the sannyasi is still more practiced and well matured, he becomes a preacher, or Parivrajakacharya, goes from state to state, country to country for preaching, and he has nothing else at that point in time excepting to convey whatever knowledge he has so far accumulated to the benefit of humanity. These Parivrajakaacharyas are pretty rare, but even today we have Parivrajakaacharyas. In my own life, someone I have seen as a Parivrajakacharya was Paramacharya Sri Shankaracharya. Chandra-sekharendra Saraswati used to go from state to state, country to country in a very humble manner. And then his main duty was to see whatever knowledge he had accumulated from his acharyas had to be passed on to people. But he also stressed upon the very humble living, how to live with practically the least of wants, if not little wants. And after that preaching, when the preaching becomes more and more advanced, that sannyasi sits down in a place as Paramahamsa. That was also demonstrated by Paramacharya, Sri Chandra-sekharendra Saraswati, when he reached the Parivrajaka and completely left off even the preaching part, to the point where he became a Mauni towards the end of his life. He became a Paramahamsa. That stage is known as Paramahamsa, the highest elevated position in a sannyasi's life, where there is nothing, no expectations whatsoever, and he has left even other sannyasi duties to his other disciples who have come to maturity at that point. These are dissimilar stages. All of them are sannyasis. Not that all of a sudden one can become a Paramahamsa or one becomes a Paramahamsa. At the stage, like the example of Sadashiva Brahmendra, which most of you may be aware, the body consciousness is lost and the sannyasin roams avaduta and has awareness of material roaming. He is already at the de facto stage of Brahman. When I raised a similar question to Paramacharya, when I was a teenager, about being a Paramahamsa and being someone really known to us as a Paramahamsa, he cited the example of Sadashiva Brahmendra. And in the later part of my life, when I was wondering whether he was a Paramahamsa, he already had given the answer earlier, that that point comes when the person detaches from the body and does not know what is happening around him, including on his body or around his body. Sri Ramana was close to the point, but Sadashiva Brahmendra ultimately reached a complete avaduta status, where his awareness of material roaming was even non-existent. Maharaja Rishabha, the son of King Nadi and Merudevi, was an incarnation of Brahman. And thus, he instructed his sons to follow the path of perfection by tapasya, which sanctifies one's existence and enables one to attain the stage of spiritual happiness, which is indeed eternal and ever increasing. Every living being is searching for happiness, but no one knows where eternal and unlimited happiness is obtainable. Foolish men seek after material sense pleasure perpetually as a substitute for real happiness, but such foolish men forget that temporary so-called happiness derived from sense pleasures, which is also enjoyed by the dogs and hogs. No animal, bird, or beast is bereft of this sensual pleasure. In every species of life, including the human form of life, such happiness is immensely obtainable. The human form of life, however, is not meant to be squandered for such cheap material happiness. Human life is meant for attaining eternal and unlimited happiness by real spiritual realization. That realization is obtainable only by tapasya, or undergoing voluntarily the path of penance and steady and total abstinence from material pleasure. Those who have been trained for abstinence in material pleasures are called dhira, or those undisturbed by the senses, dhira. Only these dhiras can accept the orders of sannyasa, and they can gradually rise to the status of Paramahamsa from the various steps I already explained. This Paramahamsa is adored by all members of society, and in fact, sannyasis at every level, from that of a Kutichaka, can still be also respected by the society, because they are already trying to reach an elevated status of a sannyasi. So whenever you look at ochre robes and people roaming around saying that they are sannyasis, 95% of them are not sannyasis because they themselves are aware of that. King Rishabha propagated this mission, and at the last stage, Rishabha became completely aloof from the material bodily needs, which is a rare stage not to be imitated by ordinary men, but to be worshipped and emulated by all. Rishibhiji yachito beje navamam parthivam vapuhu. Rishibhiji yachito beje navamam parthivam vapuhu. Dugde mam voshadihi viprastenayam saushattamaha. Dugde mam voshadihi viprastenayam saushattamaha. Rishibhihi yachito beje navamam parthivam vapuhu. Dugde mam oshadihi viprastenayam sha vashattamaha. O Brahmanas, in the 9th incarnation, the Lord prayed for by his sages, accepted the body of a Chakravarti, namely King Prithu, who cultivated the land to yield various produce, and for that reason, the earth was bountiful and attractive. It should be remembered that the rishis and subjects dethroned the previous ruler who was impious and corrupt and prayed for deliverance. Bhagavan agreed to the prayers. The earth became known after this illustrious avatara as Prithvi. Rupam sajagrihe matsyam chachusha udadi samplave navya aropya mahimayam apat vaivasvatam manu navya aropya mahimayam apat vaivasvatam manam vaivasvatam manu. Rupam sa jagrihe matsyam chachusa udadi samplave nanya arobhya mahimayam apad vaivasvatam manum. When there was a complete inundation after the period of the Chakshusha Manu, and the entire world was deep within water, Bhagavan accepted the form of a fish and protected Vaivasvata Manu, keeping him up on a boat. There are definite proofs from authoritative scriptures like Vishnu Dharmottara, Markandeya Purana, Harivamsa, that there is always a devastation, though not called Mahapralaya, after the end of each and every Manu or Manvantara. It is also quoted from Bhagavatamrita about this inundation after each Manu. Apart from this, the Lord, in order to show special favor to Satyavrata, a devotee of Bhagavan, in this particular period, incarnated himself. Since Dasakam 32 will be elaborating on this particular avatara of Matsya, we will now move along to the 11th incarnation. Surasuranam udadim Surasuranam udadim Matnadam mandarachalam
Udadim matnadam mandarachalam dadre kamadharubena prittaye kadase vibhu
Surasuranam udadhim matnadam mandara achalam dadre kamata rupena prishta ekadashe vibhuhu. The 11th incarnation of Bhagavan took the form of a tortoise, whose shell served as a pivot for the Mandarachala hill, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and atheists of the universe. Once both the atheists and the theists, namely the Asuras and Devas, were engaged in producing nectar from the ocean so that all of them could become immortal or deathless by drinking that Amritam. At that time, the Mandarachala hill was used as a churning rod, and the shell of Lord Tortoise, the Incarnation Brahman, became the resting place or the pivot of the hill in the sea water. Kurma means tortoise and turtle. Kurma Raja means king of tortoises or turtles. The tortoise avatara of Vishnu is also referred to in post-Vedic literature, such as the Bhagavata Purana, as Kachapa or Kachapam, Kamata, Akupara, and Ambuchara Atmana, all of which mean tortoise or form of a tortoise. Since we have 3 dasakams which are going to describe these very important avatara, Dasakam 27, 28, and 29, we are going to move along with this for the time.
Danvantaram dvadashamam trayodasamam yevacha Danvantaram dvadasamam Trayodasamam yevacha Apayayat surananyan Mohinya Mogayan Sriya
Danvantaram Dvadashamam Trayodasamam Evacha Apayayat Suran Anyan Mohinya Mogayan Striya. In the 12th incarnation, Bhagavan appeared as Dhanvantari, and in the 13th avatara, he allured the atheists by the charming beauty of a woman, also known as Mohini, and gave nectar to the demigods to drink by somewhat of a deception. Simply put, the 12th avatara and the 13th avatara follow almost back to back when Mahavishnu appears from the churned ocean of milk as the god of Ayurveda with the nectar in his hand first and disappears when there was heightened frenzy and battle between Suras and Asuras, only to reappear from the ocean as the most exquisite charming temptress or Mohini with bewitching beauty, Vishnu Maya, offering to resolve the dispute between the warring parties and to distribute the Amritam or nectar appropriately. The word appropriately should be very carefully noted. These 2 avatarams have been described in Dasakams 28 and 29 by Narayana Bhattadri Narayaniyam, and hence we will be moving along with this introduction.
Chaturdasam Narasimham Bibhradaityendram Urjitam Chaturdasam Narasimham Bibhradaityendram Urjitam Dadarakarajaihi Uravayerakam Kadagrudyadagayam ददार करजैः उरवगेरक गडगृत्यदाय
चतुर्दशम नारसिंहम बिभ्रत दैत्येन्द्रम ऊर्जितम ददार करजैहि उरवैरकाम कटकृत यथा. In the 14th incarnation, Bhagavan appeared as Narasimha and bifurcated the strong body of the atheist Hiranyakashipu with his bare nails, just as a carpenter pierces cane simply by hand and using no other equipment. Since we will be reviewing closely Dasakam 24 and 25 for Prahlada Charitam and Narasimha Avatara, let us move along to the next Avatara. Panchadasam Vamanakam Kritva Agad Adhvaram Balehe Padatrayam Yachamanaha Pratyaditsuhu Tripistapam. In the 15th incarnation, Bhagavan assumed the form of a young Brahmana, also known as Vamana, and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaja Bali Chakravarti. Although at heart he was willing to regain the kingdom of the 3 planetary systems, he simply asked for a donation of 3 steps of land, described in the 30th Dasakam by Narayana Bhattadri. The Almighty God can bestow upon anyone the kingdom of the universe from a ridiculously small beginning, and similarly he can take away the kingdom of the universe on the plea of seeking small piece of land or a minuscule piece of land. Avatare Shodashame Pasyan Brahmadruho Nrupan Trisapta Kritvaha Kupito Nikshatram Akron Mahim. In the 16th incarnation of the Brahman, Bhagavan as Bhrigupati annihilated the administrative class, namely the Kshatriyas, 21 generations, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the Brahmanas, namely the intelligent class. Because of the atrocity created by the Kshatriyas against Brahmanas, Bhagavan himself had to incarnate as Bhrigupati and do what he had to do. Finish the lineage or generation of Kshatriyas 21 times. The Kshatriyas are the administrative class of men, are morally expected to rule the planet by the direction of the intelligent class of men, but righteously. And the intelligent class of men, namely the Brahmanas, gave always direction to the rulers in terms of the standard Shastras or the books of revealed knowledge that were essential to administer and manage the kingdoms. If you expect similar things to happen today in this chaotic world, especially in the country like ours, it doesn't happen that easily. The rulers continue the administration according to that direction. Whenever there is disobedience on the part of Kshatriyas or the administrative class against the orders of the learned and intelligent Brahmanas, the administrators are removed by force from the post and arrangement is made for better administration. We will be dealing with the whole process and complex incarnation while reviewing Dasakam 36 by Narayana Bhattadri. Tatas Saptadase Jataha Satyavatyam Parasharat Chakre Vedataroho Shaka Drishtva Pumso Alpamedasaha. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Paramatma, Shri Vyasa appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parashara Muni, and he divided the single tree of Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent to see and learn from the Vedas as a single unit. That is why he made it into Chatur Vedas for easy followership as well as easy understanding and teaching. Vyasaha means etymologically compiler. Vyasa is the legendary author of the 18 Mahapuranas, the Mahabharata, and some of the most important works of Sanatana Dharma. He is also called Veda Vyasa, the one who compiled and classified the Vedas, or Krishna Dvaipayana, referring to his dark complexion and being an island born. Vyasa was born on an island created by sage Parasara in the middle of river Yamuna amidst a deluge of storm and floods, according to Vishnu Purana. Vyasa was born to Satyavati, also known as Matchagandhi, the daughter of a fisherman king in those times. By the very yogic powers of the venerable sage Parashara, the grandson of Brahmarishi Vasishta. As you may know, the observance of Guru Purnima is dedicated to Vyasa. It is also known as Vyasa Purnima, the day believed to be both of his birth and when he split the single Veda into three branches, Sama, Yajur, and Rig. Whatever was not split into these categories or branches was known as Atharva Veda or Other Veda. Vyasa is considered one of the 7 Chiranjeevis or immortals who are still in existence according to our dharmic tradition. As per Mahabharata, Vyasa had 3 sons from Kuru dynasty, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and the most learned and revered Vidura. Vedavyasa's illustrious son Sukha, born of his wife Pinjala, also known as Vatika, daughter of the sage Jabali, was Vyasa's true spiritual heir. Sukha was the spiritual guide to the young Kuru princes post-war, including Parikshit, at the direction of Bhagavan Krishna. The word Sukha means parrot. Sukha Maharishi was very handsome and his wife and sweet talk, or Madhurya, befitted the name of a parrot or Sukha as most appropriate. It is believed that Bhagavan Sri Krishna named him as Sukha Brahman for his knowledge in Yoga Vidya while he was still in his mother's womb. It is also believed that Vyasa possessed the knowledge of the Vedas, Dharma Shastras, and the Upanishads at birth as a Garbha Shriman. Vyasa expanded his wisdom from the 4 Sanat Kumaras, sage Narada, and from Lord Brahma himself. The traditional belief is after Vyasa compiled the sole Veda into 3 canonical collections, Rug, Yajur, and Shama, the other compilation known as Atharva Veda became recognized as the 4th Veda only much later. Vyasa's authorship of the 18 major Puranas is such a blessing that they cover an encyclopedic range of topics such as myths and histories. The Yoga Bhashya, a commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, is also attributed to Vyasa. The Guru Gita, Song of the Guru, is another great sacred text that is said to have been compiled by the sage Vedavyasa. Another view is that Guru Gita is part of Vishwashara Tantra. Guru Gita is the heart of Skanda Purana in the form of a dialogue between Bhagavan Shiva and goddess Parvati. The direct experience of Suta is brilliantly expressed through each and every couplet in the dialogue. The text of the Guru Gita is arranged first as a narration or response by sage Suta Pauranika to the questions of great sages assembled around him seeking the background of Guru Gita. Suta then says that it is indeed a conversation between Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati, in which Parvati asks Shiva to teach her about a guru or the guru and the liberation to be obtained through the help of the guru. Shiva answers Parvati by describing the guru principle, the proper ways of worshipping the guru, and the methods and benefits of repeating the Guru Gita. The text also gives the etymology of the word guru in 4 succinct slokams, sloka 37 to 40. The younger generation of today have a lot to learn when it comes to respecting teachers. And when it comes to understanding who is a guru and what is a guru principle and how guru should be respected, and without that, how whatever vidya was learned is useless. In Tamil, there is an adage, Guru villa vidyai paar. At the same time, there is also another thing. Guruvai marandavan, idharkum upayogam illadavan. The person who forgets Guru and starts thinking that he acquired knowledge on his own and start naming somebody else for his own convenience, he also gets perished. The same way the fellow who has forgotten a Guru. So these are all the things to be learned. Somebody has the time, they can go through this Guru Gita, which is not complex. It has got English translations as well. There are books on it. At least some important things from Guru Gita in the form of these 4 verses are worth knowing. Gukarasya andakarohi rukarasteja uchyate. Ajnana grasakam brahma gurureva nashamshayaha. The syllable gu is the darkness and the syllable ru is said to be light. There is no doubt that the Guru is indeed the supreme knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. Gukarasya andakarastu rukarastan nirodakrutu andakara vinashitvat gururiti abhidhiyate. Gukara means the darkness and rukara means the remover of the darkness. On account of the power of removing darkness, the teacher is known by the significant name Guru. Then Shiva goes further. Gukarasya gunatito rupatito rukaraka. Gunarupa vihinatvat guriritya abhidhiyate. The letter Guru denotes that he is beyond the 3 gunas. And Ru denotes that Guru is beyond forms also. Because Guru is free from gunas and forms, he is called the Guru. One may ask, in Kali Yuga we have teachers and they call themselves to be gurus. And they are all self-anointed people who call themselves to be Sadgurus. Are they free from gunas and forms? No. It is up to you to decide. Use your jnanam to choose a Guru who fits the profile of what is stated in Guru Gita. Gukaraha pratamo varno mayadi guna bhasakaha. Rukaro asti param brahma maya bhranti vimochakam. The first syllable Gu represents the principles such as Maya, and the second syllable Ru, the supreme knowledge, Jnana, that destroys the illusions of Maya. Naradevatvam mapannaha surakarya chikirshaya samudra nigrahadini chakre viryanyadaha param. In the 18th incarnation, Bhagavan appeared as King Rama in order to perform some pleasing work for the demigods. He exhibited superhuman powers by controlling the ocean, adjoining Bharatam, and then killing the atheist King Ravana, who was on the other side of the sea. It is a very simplistic way of giving a meaning for this slokam, but the details have been given by Sri Narayana Bhattadri in Dasakam 34 and 35, which we will be using it expansively by quoting from Valmiki, Kamban, and many other important people who talked about Rama. In fact, if we know about Rama significantly today, it is thanks to Valmiki. Then, of course, those in the Dravida region, many people have known Rama through Kumaramangalam. And there are other Ramayanams as well. But that is a very important topic, which we will come to that when we come to Dasakams 34 and 35. Ekona vimshe vimshati me vrishnisu prapya janmani Ramakrishna iti bhuvo Bhagavan aharat baram. In the 19th and 20th incarnations, Bhagavan appeared himself as Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing, he removed the burden of the world. The specific mention of the word Bhagavan in this text indicate that Balarama and Krishna are the original forms of Bhagavan. This will be further explained and elaborated later. Lord Krishna is not an incarnation of the Purusha, as we learned from the beginning of this chapter. He is the Sambambonam. He is directly the Purna Brahman, Purnavatara, Paramapurusha, and Balarama is the first plenary manifestation of Bhagavan. Something like in Naranarayana, Bhagavan takes two Rupams here, one as Balarama and another as Krishna. But Krishna to be remembered here as Purna Brahman, not just an avatara. He is the avatara. From Baladeva, the first phalanx of plenary expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna expanded. Bhagavan Sri Krishna is Vasudeva and Baladeva is Sankarshana. We will see more on this later, as Bhattadri has dedicated 60 cantos out of 100 in Narayaniyam, 37 to 96. 60 of them have been only on this Purnavataram. And 97, 98, and 99 are capping his greatness. Tatakkalau sampravurte sammohaya suradvisham buddho namna anjana sutaha kikateshu bhavishyati. Then in the beginning of Kali Yuga, Bhagavan will appear as Lord Buddha. This is what was written in Srimad Bhagavatam long before Buddha appeared. That is why you have to see the construction of this Sanskrit verse. Tatakkalau sampravurte sammohaya suradvisham buddho namna anjana sutaha hakikateshu bhavishyati. Bhagavan will appear as Lord Buddha, the son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theist. So everything was anticipated in Srimad Bhagavatam by Shri Vedavyasa already. Even the birth of Buddha and the subsequent avatara also, which we are going to talk about now. Lord Buddha, the powerful incarnation of Brahman, appeared in the province of Gaya, which is modern-day Bihar, as the son of Anjana, and he preached his own concept of non-violence and deprecated even the animal sacrifices sanctioned in the Vedas. At the time when Lord Buddha appeared, the people in general were atheistic and preferred animal flesh to anything else. Even today, we have a lot of people who prefer animal flesh to vegetables or many other goodies that can be made without animal flesh. It's kind of sad, but that's the truth. So Buddha appeared around at the same time when things were almost like this today. On the plea of Vedic sacrifice, every place was practically turned into a slaughterhouse. Animal killing was indulged in extensively, regrettably without restrictions. Lord Buddha preached non-violence, taking pity on the poor animals. His preaching was interpreted by many that he disavowed belief in the tenets of the Vedas and stressed the adverse psychological effects caused by animal killing. That interpretation was wrong, and he is wrong. Less intelligent men of the age of Kali, who already had no faith in God, latched on to this aspect of his preaching, and for the time being were trained in moral discipline and non-violence, which nevertheless were the preliminary steps for proceeding further on the path of God realization. Buddha, however, deluded the atheists because these atheists who followed his principles did not believe in God, while keeping their absolute faith in Lord Buddha without realizing that he himself was nothing but an incarnation of the Supreme Brahman. See the anachronism here. Thus, the arrogant, egoistic, and faithless people were made to believe in God, nevertheless in the form of Lord Buddha. That was the mercy of Lord Buddha. He converted the faithless atheists to be faithful to him while following non-violence of all forms. That way, people who were non-believers and faithless were brought into the core of being faithful to him, who is nothing but Purnavatara, Parabrahman, reincarnating as Buddha. Killing of animals before the advent of Lord Buddha was the most prominent feature of the society, or maybe the primordial work of many people morning till night. People mistakenly claimed and misquoted that these were Vedic sacrifices. Unfortunately, they are not. When the Vedas are not accepted through the authoritative disciplic succession, the casual readers of the Vedas are often misled by the flowery language of that system of knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, a comment has been made on such foolish scholars, Abhipachitaha. The foolish scholars of Vedic literature who do not care to receive the spiritual message through the spiritually realized sources of disciplic succession are sure to be bewildered. To them, the ritualistic ceremonies are considered to be overall summum bonum and the goal. They have absolutely no depth of knowledge. I am not giving this explanation. This explanation was given by Lord Krishna to Sri Arjuna. Sarvasya chaham kriti sannivitto mattasmritihi jnanam apohanam cha. Vedescha sarvaihi ahameva vedyo vedanta kriti veda vidheva chaham. What a beautiful verse. The whole theme or system of Vedic literature is to get to him, the Supreme Brahman, the individual soul, the cosmic situation, and the relation between all these items. That is the purpose, summum bonum of Vedic literature. When the relation is known, the relative function begins. And as a result of such a function, the ultimate goal of life, or going back to Brahman, takes place in the easiest manner. Unfortunately, unauthorized scholars of the Vedas become captivated by the purificatory ceremonies only, and the natural progress is thereby completely constricted or totally ignored. To such bewildered persons of atheistic propensity, Lord Buddha is the emblem of theism. Buddha, therefore, first of all, wanted to check the habit of animal killing by insisting on non-violence. The animal killers are dangerous elements on the path going back to Brahman. They cannot go to Brahman ever. There are two types of animal killers. The soul is also sometimes called the animal or the living being. That's also an animal. Therefore, both the slaughter of the animals and the slaughter of those who have lost their identity of soul are also deemed animal killers. Maharaja Parikshit said that only the animal killer cannot relish the transcendental message or the spiritual message of Supreme Brahman. Therefore, if people are to be educated to the path of Brahman, they must be taught primarily to stop the process of animal killing as a first step, as above mentioned. Swami Vivekananda answered to a quizzical arguer whose job was only to argue, but Swami was very, very patient with him. But his answer was very pointed. So Swami said, it is nonsensical to say that animal killing has nothing to do with spiritual realization. Vivekananda added, by this dangerous theory that animal killing and spiritual realization are two separate paths, or there is no hindrance to spiritual realization because of animal killing, Vivekananda said, many orange-robed Swamis or so-called Swamis have sprung up by the grace of Kali Yuga who preach animal killing under the garb of the Vedas. Technically, Lord Buddha's philosophy is called atheistic because there is no apparent acceptance of the Supreme Brahman and because that system of philosophy denied the authority of the Vedas. But Vivekananda said further that this is an act of camouflage by the very same Brahman. Lord Buddha is the incarnation of very Brahman. As such, he is the originator of Vedic knowledge. And where then the contradiction comes? He therefore cannot reject Vedic philosophy. The very Brahman who created himself as Buddha was not the one rejecting Vedic philosophy. He was only objecting to certain things which have been misinterpreted, taken from the Vedic philosophy. Buddha rejected it outwardly because the demons who are always envious of the devotees of Brahman try to support cow killing or animal killing from the pages of the Vedas. This is now being done by the modernized sannyasis. Lord Buddha had to reject the authority of the Vedas altogether so that everything stops at that point, so that there is no need for misinterpretation to question even why animal killing should be stopped. This is simply technical, and had it not been so, he would not have been so accepted as the incarnation of Brahman. Nor would he have ever been worshipped in the transcendental songs of the poet Jayadeva, who is a Vaishnava Acharya, another avatar of Brahman. We know that at one point we talked about Jayadeva being Vedavyasa himself reborn in Kali, and Vedavyasa himself is an avatar of Brahman. We cannot forget the chain. And Jayadeva in his Gita Govindam says Buddha is one of the avatars. We heard the song also. Lord Buddha preached the preliminary principles of the Vedas in a manner suitable for the time, and so also did Shankaracharya to establish the authority of the Vedas. Therefore, Lord Buddha, Acharya Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and 1,000 other liberated souls north and south paved the path of theism, led the people on to the path towards realization of going back to Brahman in the proper order. I was and always get asked this question over the decades repeatedly, and therefore I am preempting that question with this answer. Here is my preamble. Srimad Bhagavatam was composed just prior to the beginning of the age of Kali, more than 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. Let's leave the number of years. And Lord Buddha appeared about 2,600 years ago, just recently. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Buddha is unquestionably foretold, even if we had to accept the Westerners' thought of 5,000 years old Srimad Bhagavatam, forgetting that mythical age of Srimad Bhagavatam is long before. For argument's sake, if Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago, Buddha was only 2,600 years ago. Such is the authority of this clear, eternally spiritual scripture known as Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many such prophecies, and they are being fulfilled one after the other. They will indicate the positive standing of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is without mistakes, illusion, or imperfection, which are the four flaws of all conditioned souls. The liberated souls are above these flaws. Therefore, they can see and foretell things which are yet to take place on distant future dates. Athasau yugasandhyayam dasyuprayeshu rajasu janita vishnu yasasa namna kalkihi jagatpatihi. Thereafter, at the conjunction of two yugas, the Lord of the creation will take his birth as the Kalki incarnation. This is what is written in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kalki incarnation is going to come. So imagine the prowess of Srimad Bhagavatam and the mythical significance of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavan will take his birth as the Kalki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu Yasha or Vishnu Yashas. At this time, all the rulers of the earth and heads of the nations will have degenerated into nothing but plunderers. That's the purpose of Kalki incarnation, and come and put them down completely. We see the breakdown of this slokam. Dasyu is plunderers. Prayoshi is almost all plunderers. Rajasu is the governing personalities. We now know who they are, all the plunderers. Janita will take his birth. Vishnu, named Vishnu. Namna, in the name of Kalki, the incarnation of Bhagavan. Jagatpatihi, the Lord of the creation. I doubt whether some of you may even ask me after the session, whether based on what we have seen in the last 8 years, we have already hit that low point of leaders' degeneration into that of plunderers, and some of the other leaders trying to salvage what is left of us. Here is another foretelling of the advent of Lord Kalki, the incarnation of Brahman. He is to appear at the conjunction of the two yugas, namely at the end of Kali Yuga and the beginning of the next Satya Yuga, which is the cyclical round. The cycle of the four yugas, namely Satya or Krita, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, rotates like the calendar months. The present Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years, out of which we have passed only about 5,000 years after the battle of Kurukshetra, even for argument's sake, and the end of the regime of King Parikshit. So there are 427,000 years balance yet to be finished. Therefore, at the end of this period, the incarnation of Kalki will take place as foretold in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The name of his father, Vishnu Yasha, a learned Brahmana, and the village Sambhala are also mentioned how it is going to happen. As mentioned above, all these foretelling will prove to be factual in chronological order, just as it happened in the case of Lord Buddha. That is the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, there is still hope that the current situation may correct itself soon and we are not at the end of the Kali point or the plunderers or no plunderers at this point.
Narayana 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 Hare Krishna